makes sense. Do you guys follow me? So it's not just some number that we come up with. It's not just some idea that some, greedy, money-hungry preacher, who just wanted your money came up with. That's not what it's about. It's actually an Old Testament biblical testimony of what God has done in your life. And just like we talked about during the little altar part of the service, was the fact that, we look at Mike. Mike's been redeemed. I don't know if you guys know what this is right here. Okay. This is actually drugs is what that is. And somebody just gave that to me during service. Because they didn't want that in their life. Because they're saying, I've been redeemed, and I want to get rid of this stuff because I belong to God. This is why we set aside that money. This is why we set aside that 10%. And what we have to understand is it's not about the money, okay? It's not one of those things. And I'm thankful that we don't go to a church to where if you give a lot of money, you're going to get a lot more of Pastor Eric and Pastor Brian's time. They're not those types of pastors. Whether you give money or you don't give money, they're going to be who they are to you regardless of who you're at. Those are the types, and we can be thankful for that. But what you have to understand is it's not about the money. It's about the obedience. It's about living that testimony of saying, every time I do this, I'm reminding myself and reminding everybody that sees me that I am redeemed by Christ. Does that make sense? Yes? This is actually kind of cool, a kind of cool thing. But, we have developed cultural and mindset of what mine is mine. And we have to understand that God has never changed. Malachi 3:6, he says, "For I am the Lord, I do not change." Now think about the 10 Commandments. Jesus paid the price for it all, but it doesn't mean that you can. There's an example that we're reading a book. This is kind of how he referred to it. He said, imagine that this guy comes to you, and this guy's like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. Do you guys know who Steve Jobs and Bill Gates are? Okay, Steve Jobs is like the head honcho of Apple, and Bill Gates is like the head honcho of Microsoft. And say they come to you and Brandon, come here. I'm not going to pick on you. Yeah. Say I'm loaded with say $146 billion. Okay, and I come to you, Brandon, and I say, Brandon, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you $10,000. Okay, a month. I'm going to give you $10,000 a month. But here's what I want you to do. I'm going to be gone for a while. And so I'm going to give you this $10,000. I'm going to leave Abby. Where's Abby at? Is she back there? Abby, come here. Yeah. And stand over here. Okay. Brandon, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave for a while. Okay. I want you to take care of Abby for me. All right. So I'm going to give you $10,000. All right. And you're not to live in her house at all, okay? But what I want you to do is I'm going to put you in charge of taking care of her. So I want you to, out of that $10,000, I want you to take $1,000 of it, and I want you to take care of whatever she needs, okay? The $9,000, I want you to just manage it, do what needs to be done with it. But that first $1,000, I just want you to make sure that she has everything taken care of that she needs, okay? All right? Now go sit down. Okay. Thanks, babe. But this is, if you look at that, this is kind of how God has set it up. God is God makes a lot of sense most of the time. He puts things in orders. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason he hung the stars in the sky so where they don't fall in the sky and crush us. For you science people, you'd understand that. There's a reason that God puts things in orders, and this is what he's saying. He's saying, look, this is a testimony, and this is why you do it. But the church is the bride of Christ. And what he's saying, look, I'm giving you the ability to work. I'm giving you, you think that your boss at McDonald's is giving you that money. It's not. It's me. I'm the one that's put it in you to go into that place and to get a job. I'm the one that's put everything in order. So that $20 a week that you make, however much it is, I'm the one that's giving you that $20. That's my $20. And here's what I'm saying. That I want you to take the first 10% of that, and I want you to make sure that the church, that my bride, that the people are taken care of. And then the other 90%, you manage how you need to manage it. But that first fruit is a testimony, and it's also taking care of what needs to be taken care of. Now look, I've told you guys this before, and I've said it to the adults too. If God believes in what we're doing here at Journey Church, God's going to take care of us whether or not you tithe. Okay? The fact of the matter is that tithing, this whole thing, it's a part of the relationship between you and God. It's between you and God. And this is the first fruits. This is why you do it. You do it as a testimony, and God takes that and uses it to make sure that the church, we have people coming in all the time who, they've lost their jobs and they're going through a hard time and they can't afford to get food and they can't afford to keep their lights on. So they come to the church. And because people are faithful and they worship God with their obedience, we're able to help them. We're able to go out and help missionaries. We're able to fund things, to fund some of these projects and stuff that we're doing because people are obedient and faithful. And that's what this principle is. It's a principle of saying, okay, God, look, because you've redeemed me, I want to make sure that I take care of what you've placed here for me. And that's why we do what we do. You have to understand that, if we get real theological, and I'm going to try not to get real theological, and I'm closing with this, but, and I know that, guys, that this is a lot less preaching and a lot more teaching, but after this series is over, after Excel, the week after Easter, we're starting a series based on the Call of Duty video games. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But before we get there, we've got to get through this because this is something that, especially at your age, you guys have to understand. But Jesus, one of the names of Jesus, one of the things that he's referred to is the second Adam, okay? Because the first Adam came, Garden of Eden, we all know the story, and he sinned. And because he sinned, it's in a ripple of sin and all the consequences throughout history, throughout eternity, throughout time, and we're still dealing with the consequences of Adam's sin. So Jesus came as the second Adam. And what he did was God offered him as a sacrifice to redeem mankind. So we give because God gave. We give because Jesus gave his life. As an example, Jesus gave his life for the church, for the bride of God. Does that make sense? You guys understand that? So when we give, not only are we testifying that we've been redeemed, but we're giving to the same cause that Jesus gave his life for. And that's why we do it. I mean, if I could break down the whole tithing thing to you, that's why we do it. We give because Jesus gave. Does that make sense? Make sense? Yes, no? Raise your hand. Yes? Yeah. Okay. If I get the worship team to come back up. Guys, like I said, I know that this whole series is a little different, has a completely different feel, all that kind of stuff. But I promise you, if you will take to heart the principles and take to heart what I'm trying to get to you, your life is going to be so much better. We talked last week, guys, we are nearing some pretty big events happening in our world. I mean, you look in the Middle East, there's riot after riot. Governments are trying to be overthrown. You look at Wisconsin, we had people rioting inside the state assembly house. Thousands upon thousands of people. Our government's printing money is faster than we can spend it, which is hard because we're spending it pretty fast as a government. But what you have to understand is that we don't have gold. Basically a certain amount of dollars equals a certain weight of gold. You guys understand that? Okay, so for every dollar that we spend, we have to have gold to back that up. We don't have the gold to back up as a country all the money that we're printing. So what we're doing is we're borrowing money from China. So basically right now, China just about owns the United States because of all the money that we've borrowed from them and that we're in debt to. Okay, so when you watch, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or whatever, we're all in this together. And what God has told us is that we're not citizens of this world, but we're citizens of the kingdom of God. And so we have to handle our money, we have to handle our lives, we have to manage what God has given us according to his principles if we're going to make it through this time. And if you buy into what the world is selling, which is a lot of consumerism stuff, a lot of you need this, and you need the latest and the greatest, and you need to have the new iPhones, and you need to have the next Call of Duty game, and the next Xbox, and the Kinect, and all this kind of stuff. And God is telling you, just hold on. Make sure you give me the 10% and manage the other 90% according to my principles, and you and your household are going to be able to make it through everything that comes your way.